All right. I imagine that we have some carryover audience members that were here during the previous hour. Thank you for staying. And we have some new folks that are here. So I'm just going to quickly go over the rules of engagement and the format briefly, and do a couple of introductions from our moderator table here to your right. My name is Curtis Blair. I lead the Chamber of Commerce in Utah County, and it's been a privilege of a lifetime, really, to wake up every morning and serve at the pleasure of our board of directors. They're wonderful individuals, and they represent the business community from Lehigh to Santaquin and all the way out to Saratoga Springs and beyond. It's a great group. And I brought two of our best and brightest tonight to help me moderate the debate. Our current chair, Harvey Scott, and our chair-elect, Janice Bullock. Just a little bit about each of them. You'll know Janice probably by three hats that she wears at least. She's an Orem resident. She's the CEO of a business whose office is headquartered in Orem. And as I mentioned, she's the chair-elect for the board of directors at the Chamber next year. She's the CEO of Squire & Company, a leading Utah-based CPA firm recognized for innovative accounting and advisory services. Since joining Squire in 1999, where she was just barely of age to work, 14 probably, she has driven strategic growth, founding the QuickBooks consulting team and advancing Squire as a leader in accounting technology. I knew Squire before I knew the Chamber, and as a small business owner, they were our accountants of choice. Magna cum laude graduate at BYU. She has 2 degrees, a bachelor's and a master's of accountancy. She became the CEO in 2018. She focuses on governance, strategic planning, and operations. Under her leadership, boy, this is just lots of stuff. I'm just going to say that her company has grown. She was named Utah Business Magazine CEO of the Year in 2020 and included in Forbes' top 200 CPAs in America recently. I think she is probably more famous outside of Utah than inside, especially among the industry of accountancy in her field. Help me bring a Orem welcome to Janice Bullock. Harvey is our current chair and serves in his professional life as the Chief Development Officer at Redmond Salts, Redmond Inc. And we love having him as our chair. He's been a true mentor and now a friend, and so grateful to work with him at the Chamber. Prior to Redmond, Harvey was the Executive Vice President at Blendtec. I think that's an Orem-based company, was it not? And the Director of International Trade and Diplomacy Office at the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Earlier in his career, he served in a VP role and Chief Development Officer at Rolls-Royce. And I just can't imagine Harvey wearing cufflinks, and I think there was a day when you probably did that. And so he earned dual degrees, Cornell University, focusing on strategy and organizational management. You want to talk about an international businessman? He's traveled the world. He's probably appreciates more than anyone I know the cultures of the world. He's married and is the father of 5 children. Harvey and his wife live on their family farm in Genola. An Orem welcome to Harvey Scott. All right, so our format tonight is really quite simple. You saw it on display during this last opportunity. Each of our candidates will have an opportunity to make an opening statement. Harvey, to my left, your right, will have our 15-second time clock, and you'll hear his alarm go off. I hate to interrupt, but I will if we go grossly over the minute or the minute and a half or the 2 minutes. There will be questions that are asked, 2 from residents, 1 from the business community, and there will be a 30-second rebuttal. I don't know that we'll use the rebuttal at every occasion. We'll kind of sense that as we go. And I'll also lean on Mayor Young and Karen McCandless for an indication from them if they'd like to speak to a question. And so we'll flow that somewhat naturally. And then closing statements at the end. With that, I think we're ready to go. I mentioned some of the rules of engagement from the audience. I don't know that it's worth repeating, but as we're civil and as we care for this process, let's preserve and protect what makes the legislative experience so wonderful. And so no booings, no hissing, and we'll stick around. We have it on good word that Mayor and Karen will stay to answer any questions that you may have. So with that, without further ado, let's get going on this. So Janice is going to ask 2 questions. Harvey will ask 2, and I've got a couple, but you've got 1. Okay, all right. And it better be about what I think it is. All right. So let's do opening statements first. And I imagine that Pete, are they listed in an order on the ballot? Should we have, in your opinion? Okay. All right. Mayor, I'm going to go with your recommendation. Karen, lead us out with an opening statement.
All right, thank you.
You've got 90 seconds.
All right, as was mentioned, my name is Karen McCandless, and I'm really excited to be here tonight, and I'm really excited to be running for mayor. Many of you may know me from my 13 years of service on the Orem City Council. I'm a little older, a little grayer, and I hope a lot wiser. And I've just retired as the Chief Executive Officer of Community Action Services and Food Bank, a nonprofit agency dedicated to fostering self-reliance. It served nearly 25,000 unduplicated individuals last year. And my education and prior work experience is in land use planning and economic development. I've worked in the public and private sectors helping communities thrive. I've been recognized for my service and my dedication to my community. In 2020, Community Action was awarded the Best in State Award in the Nonprofit Organization category. I was recognized by the Orem City Council with the Walter C. Orem Award for Community Service. The Utah Valley Chamber of Commerce awarded me the annual Chamber Champion Award in 2023. And Utah Business has named me one of their Women of the Year in 2022. I'm a collaborator. I'm a listener. I'm a bringer together of people. I care deeply about people. I worry about the mental health of our community members. I'm concerned about loneliness. I want to tackle some of the tough issues as your mayor. You've told me that housing and traffic are huge concerns to you. You want to keep the great services Orem has while keeping property taxes low. Those are my priorities too. And finally, a fun fact about me. If fly swatting were an Olympic sport, I would win the gold hands down. And I look forward to the opportunity to have you get to know me better this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, David.
It's on?
It's on.
Hi, I'm Dave Young, and I'm really excited you guys are all here tonight. You're such an important part of the process, and it's good for you to be informed and to just really control the destination of your city by being here. I decided to run 4 years ago, and the reason I did was because I saw Orem going in the wrong direction. The previous 10 years, we'd been building about 3,500 apartments. Our traffic was going nuts, and our city dynamics were changing. And we just were changing into a bigger and bigger, busier city. And I'd lived here for 35 years. I raised my family here. And I just saw the Orem that they grew up in changing. And so I decided either I can move or I can try and fix this. And when I talked to my wife, she told me she wasn't moving. And so I decided to try and fix some of the things that were going on in Orem. Over the last 4 years, we have done a ton of innovative things to take Orem to the next level, to make Orem the best it can be. And I've got a list here of things that have happened in Orem. It's off the charts. But my main goal here is just to volunteer my time and to use my skills. I've been involved in business. I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years. I know how to make things happen, and I'm here to help make Orem happen. Thank you.
Okay, well done. Thank you, David. Thank you, Karen. All right, our first question will come from Chair-elect Janice.
So Curtis mentioned that I live in Orem currently, but I actually grew up in Orem, pretty much have lived here in my entire life. And so there was a question that was submitted by the public that really resonated with me. It says, Orem is known as Family City USA. And that's actually a core memory for me growing up, is remembering Family City USA and having that resonate with me in my youth. So what does that mean to you, and how would you strengthen that identity? So let's start with Karen McCandless.
All right, thank you. I loved the Orem Fest 2022 theme. It was, "This is where you belong." To me, that captures what Family City USA means. It's a place where everyone feels welcome, where families can put down roots, kids can safely walk or bike to schools or parks, and neighbors know and care for each other. Strengthening Family USA means having housing choices so children and grandchildren can stay close, keeping our economy strong so opportunities are here at home, and being wise with taxpayer dollars so families aren't burdened with higher taxes. It also means safe streets, welcoming gathering places, and programs that connect people so no one feels left out. Family City USA is about a community where everyone can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mayor Young.
Thank you for asking. When I ran for mayor, Family City USA was one of my top priorities. And Family City USA, the idea had kind of come and gone over the years, and sometimes we were recognized by it, sometimes we weren't. And so I decided that with all the influences in the world that are pushing against families and against those kind of ideals, that I wanted to brand us as Family City USA. So the city council got behind me, and we made it, we actually made it our brand, and officially. And so it went on all of our parks, on all of our city vehicles, on our buildings, and more importantly, we turned it into our benchmark. As a city council, we decided our main mission was to create an environment where families could thrive, and to make that happen, we made Family City USA our benchmark. So when we make a city council decision, we ask ourselves, will this make Orem more of a family city or less of a family city? And if we follow that benchmark, we wind up in the right place. And I found that you don't go through all the confusion of over the river and through the hills making a decision. You use that as your benchmark.
Thank you.
Okay, well done. This next question is also from a resident. It's regarding leadership and collaboration. And the question is, and I'm going to phrase it such that knowing that Mayor's been in office, and Karen, you're seeking that office, and that is this. Karen, how will you work with your fellow council members, the staff and residents, and community partners to find the best solutions for Orem? And we'll have Karen, you take 1 minute. How will you work, how will you work with, yeah, we're going to bounce back and forth, you'll see, you bet. Yeah. How will you work with fellow council members, staff, and residents to bring the best solutions to Orem?
All right. Well, my leadership style was developed in the public sector. I remember being a newly appointed council member and telling Mayor Jerry Washburn, I've never imagined doing this job, so I'm going to be watching you closely, because I was appointed to the position. From Mayor Washburn to City Manager Jim Reams and others, my leadership style developed into being a leader who looks at all options and knows that there are always two sides to every story. A leader who holds people accountable, invests in strong relationships. A leader who listens, invites discussion, and works to build consensus. A leader who leads by example with appropriate goals and key performance indicators. A leader who recognizes each person's inherent worth. Finally, a leader with a dose of self-awareness regarding improvement. So this is my leadership style and how I would run and bring people together. And this style has been endorsed. I've been endorsed by former Governor Gary Herbert and former mayors Jim Evans and Richard Brunst. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Karen. So, Mayor, given that you have a bit of a track record here, how will you work with fellow council members, staff, residents, and community partners to find the best solutions for Orem?
So as far as community partners, I have an advantage at this because before I got elected, I knew most of our state reps, I knew our federal reps, I knew a lot of the mayors, and so just from business and different things that I've done. So that wasn't a new thing, and I still currently continue to work with all those people whenever it pertains to Orem City. As far as our city council members, I really don't believe in manipulating or controlling those council members' votes or decisions. When we have different things come before us, I encourage every council member to do their research, to listen to their voters, and decide what they think is best. And then when we go into those meetings, a lot of times I don't know how people are going to vote, but I feel the best way to have those meetings is I'll lead in the meeting, I'll express my opinion, I'll try and paint the picture of where we need to go, and I'll let every council member do that. And then we come together and vote. We don't always agree, and I think that's very healthy because that's the way it's supposed to work.
Thank you. Keep the mic for a minute, Mayor. What was the hardest decision that you've had to make while in office?
The hardest decision. Geez, I don't know. There's a
I
lot
can give
of
you a
them.
few prompts if you'd like.
Yeah, give me some prompts.
How you've managed State Street, the school districting, and realignment there.
Yeah.
Some financial issues that you faced and had to make some tough decisions.
Yeah.
What was one of your hardest decisions that you've had to make as mayor?
I would say, yeah, I mean, there's been more than that, but just to give you one, the school district is the most famous, difficult decision, and I think that decision proved that I was not a politician. No politician would take that on. It's just political suicide, right? It's too complicated. But when I found out that over $200 million had come out of Orem and gone to other cities around in our district, and that we had that deficit, while at the same time our schools were basically having all kinds of issues, I just felt that it was good to bring that to the taxpayers and let them understand that and then decide what they thought. And actually that's one of the few things that, well, I won't say few things, that is one of the things that Karen and I agree on, because when Karen was in office, she voted for that same thing to split the school district.
Karen, will you respond to that? What went right? What would you do differently?
All right, I'd like to talk for just a moment about the 2006, is it a rebuttal that I can ask for?
Well, I'm asking you to respond to that statement.
To that statement?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I didn't know if you were responding to that statement or asking me the same question about my city council service and the hardest decision, so I apologize.
Yeah, no. What would you have done differently about the districting?
About the districting?
What went right, or what would you do differently?
The reason I voted to put it on the ballot at the time in 2006, well, there was a different set of rules, and the legislature had some different laws at the time, and I was frustrated that the issue was coming before the city to begin with. I felt that school district issues need to remain with the school district, which is an elected body, and I thought it had no business coming to the city council, and I was frustrated. So I thought if the state legislature has thrown it into the laps of the city council, then okay, I'll put it on the ballot and have it. It wasn't because I supported a split. It was because I was frustrated that the city council was put in a position to have to make that decision.
Are you pleased with the outcome so far, with the decisions that was made about the district?
Right now,
Uh-huh.
I'm wish it had been had a different process, and I wish that it had been split differently. I was in favor of a split, but I was not in favor of a three district split.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think
in
that's
this current
fair.
situation.
Okay, thank you. It's representative, though, isn't it, about the growth that's taking place in our county, to have the largest school district in the state split and then become, more than two. Mayor Young, will you just take a second and talk about the growth? In your 4 years as mayor and your many years as a resident, what concerns you about growth, and what are you optimistic about growth?
I think growth just has to be managed, right? I mean, we've got cities all through the county, and they're all growing at different rates. Orem is 95% built out, and like I said, leading up, one of the reasons I ran was because our elected officials kept just putting more and more apartments. They kept running and saying they weren't going to, and then they just kept doing it until we wound up in the thousands. And so we kind of wound up in a place where we're 42% rentals, and I believe we just have to decide the type of community we want to be. if we want to be a downtown Salt Lake, then that's a decision. And that's where we were headed. And so as far as growth, I think we have to manage that growth. Our growth is mostly on the commercial or the retail and the commercial side. The business side, as has been mentioned, we had over 3,000 new businesses start in Orem. And so the growth has just got to be managed. But as far as the residential, there's not a lot of room unless we go straight up.
Okay, thank you. Karen, do you want to comment about growth? Would you like to maybe take a turn to say, hey, these are the things that concern you, and these are the things you're optimistic about growth?
All right, I'm going to focus a bit on the residential component of growth as it's happened in Orem. I am, as a land use planner and economic developer, I recognize the importance of having populations near retail places. I recognize the retail being important as part of keeping property taxes low, but we need to be working as far as growth on creating spaces in neighborhoods for owner-occupied options. I think we have enough apartments. I do not support putting apartments, high-rise apartments on State Street or high-rise apartments right now anywhere in Orem. I want us to focus on creating housing products that encourage homeownership. As you know, Curtis, I have been serving as the vice chair of the Chamber's Housing Gap Committee. We've talked about the missing middle, talked about housing that's available for our teachers or for our first responders and for others who serve in our communities. We don't have that. Those types of salaries can't afford a $600,000 single-family home in Orem. But I want people of all types, varieties, to be able to live in Orem, and so focusing on that ownership component in our neighborhoods.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll just say something.
Please, please.
Yeah, just to respond to that. I mean, we have to have responsible growth. And if we add more and more density, however we add it, we have to have the traffic infrastructure to handle it. And there's different streets. I mean, we had in city council the other night, we had an area they were trying to put some density, and not that much density, but on the streets coming out of there, you can only go one way, even though it's a two-way street because of all the parking. And so it's got to be done responsibly, and that's where you get into the mush, because some people think responsible is cramming all kinds of density in, and other people think responsible is to make it so we keep the nature of our community.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So maybe, Curtis, you queued this up perfectly because I don't know how you knew this was going to be my question. My wife graduated from Mountain View High School. She was born and raised here in Orem. My oldest daughter, currently lives here in Orem. We live in Genola. I have 5 children. All of them are out of the house except for one, and they're all facing a similar issue, and that is they want to live in Utah, but there isn't affordable housing. And as a parent, that's an important thing for me, to have my kids close to me. So as candidates of the mayor office here in Orem, how do you balance single-family homes that are $600,000 and high-density housing, which is probably something more along the lines that my children could afford? How do we manage that type of growth? What do we tell our young population who want to be on the housing ladder? It's the single best way to build wealth in this country is to own a home. So what is the plan for Orem? How do we help our kids stay in Orem and raise their families here too?
Would you like to ask first?
Mayor, please.
Yes, no, that's a great question. It's also a very difficult question because it's a balancing act. I mean, if we fill our city up with density, it changes the nature of our city, and we're no longer Orem, and we become undesirable as a place to live. So it's a circular thing, and I think Orem has hit that balance. I think we're at 43% rentals currently, and I think if we go past that, then we start to tip over into a rental community. And so for Orem, this is really a national problem. It's a problem in Utah because of supply and demand and land, but it's a national problem because the previous administration took interest rates from 2% to 6%, and effectively, with prices up, that priced everyone out of the market. So this whole affordability conversation is so much bigger than us. I mean, there's issues at the national level that have to happen. There's issues at the state level that could happen. The state could, one of the things we've talked about in Orem is to start infilling a lot of our older areas. In other words, revitalizing those and revitalizing those with, more homes and more smaller homes. So that's a possibility, but we'd have to have help from the state to do that because economically it doesn't make any sense to strip those houses. It costs too much.
Thank you. Karen?
All right. As I've said before, I have extensive experience as a land use planner and as someone who's worked in economic development. And so I've learned this in the different cities I've worked for and in the private sector, tactics and skills to guide growth in a thoughtful way. So it complements what we have in our community rather than overwhelming those existing neighborhoods. And so I think about protecting open space, respecting established areas, and making sure new projects add value to the community. So I believe that we need to limit, if we can, and I don't know, because like you said, man, this is a national problem. I want to limit investor ownership in our neighborhoods because when too many homes are bought and then by outside investors, families get priced out. I'm intrigued, and one of, as we'll hear later on in the discussion, infill and talking about neighborhood revitalization. So we need to be very thoughtful and careful as we do guide that growth.
Right on the minute. Thank you. Okay, our next question is a very close cousin to the previous, and that is about transportation. Mayor, you've grappled with this question already about transit on State Street. What's some of the logic behind and the reasoning, the decision that you've made regarding transit on State Street?
Yeah, no, that was a really intentional decision. As far as transit on State Street, that was talking about taking UVX essentially, which used to be called BRT before they rebranded to UVX, and bringing that down State Street. Had they done that, and I think they still want to do that, but had they done that, that would have affected those businesses, in a very bad way for at least 2 or 3 years. It also creates all kinds of problems as far as accessing the businesses on both sides of State Street. And as has been mentioned, State Street, 1300 South, the mall, those are our economic engines. And so if we essentially trade our economic engine, which drives our sales tax, which keeps our taxes low, if we do that, it creates a real problem for us of how we sustain that. It puts us in a box where our only option is really to raise taxes. Mm-hmm. And so, and I just don't see it's the solution. When you look at the numbers and you look at the ridership, to do that to State Street, you'd basically be blowing up State Street on a theory that this is going to work out. And I don't believe from all of my experience it would.
Yeah. Thank you. Karen, what is your vision for transit on State Street? Is there one?
Well, actually, as I prepared for this, I've thought a lot about that with traffic and congestion on State Street and other issues with that. And so because Orem is uniquely situated because we're between mountains and a lake. And so everything passes through Orem. All roads lead through Orem. And I can tell you at 5 o'clock, well, I don't need to tell you all that, you know that. It can be a blessing and a curse. Because it's a blessing because like Mayor Young said, that we can have our commercial corridors thrive. And it generates sales tax revenue, and that helps keep property taxes low, but it's also a curse because of the congestion it creates. So I see transit as a piece of what we can do to address overall congestion in our city. I also think we need to have safe bike routes, sidewalks, and crosswalks so families can feel comfortable and safe letting their kids walk or ride. But transit is a piece and an important piece for those for many in our community.
And I'm going to have Mayor respond. Define what you mean by transit, though. And what is your vision for transit on State Street then?
Right now, it isn't. Right now, I don't think we're to the point where we have BRT or UVX. But I think that we need the ridership. I've used UVX before. In fact, I used it a lot from when I was working at Community Action because the station was right there, and there was ridership. But I just need to go back now. It's been a while since we've run the numbers, but let's see, is it viable? I'm extremely concerned about the impact it would have on businesses, and then also on the movement of traffic there. That's why it's crucial that we work with UDOT, because it would take out at least 2 lanes on State Street. It would limit left turns, which affects businesses. So if we do end up doing something with a more advanced transit system, we need to be very, very careful.
Mayor, how careful?
Very careful. And the reason we don't have BRT on State Street right now is because the current city council pushed back hard that we did not want it. If it was left up to UDOT, they really wanted it.
Yeah.
But there's something else. And this is kind of a Trojan horse effect. If they push BRT down State Street, they've since in the last couple of years changed the rules. The new rules are you have to have station area plans at every bus stop. So at every bus stop for a quarter mile around, you have to build high density. And so it's not just the BRT. Now it's turned into a whole bunch of density down State Street. It's a combo deal.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Before I turn the mic to Janice, I've got a quick question about the time commitment required to serve on the council or to serve as mayor. That requires a lot of daytime, evening events, showing up for ribbon cuttings to key decisions on transportation and school districting. Karen, how will you make the time to fully serve if you're elected as mayor?
All right. Through my experience, serving on the city council was a huge commitment. And because I know that firsthand, that I would spend probably on the average of 20 hours a week on city council issues while raising a family. So now I'm retired, and so I have even more time to dedicate to serving our Orem community. I know there are added responsibilities, like you mentioned, and I commit to attending those meetings, and unless I'm like hit by a meteorite or something, then the mayor pro tem would attend for me. But attending those, I would hold regular office hours so residents and employees and community members can visit with me. I would be there. I would show up for the job, and it takes time to listen and time to make that change. And I commit to taking the time is needed to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, tell me, yes, please. Was it more than you anticipated when you took office, or is it about what you were expecting? The time commitment to serve as mayor.
It's definitely more than I expected or I was told. Yeah, no question about it. And I've got my hands full as far as I spend about 35 hours a week with mayor duties. I spend about an equal amount of time running other business interests that I have. And so I've got my hands full. But you can check with the staff. You can check with anybody you want to check with. I'm not at the city sitting there, waiting for people to show up. But anyone who wants to meet with me, I've got a secretary at the city. They set meetings, set appointments, and I meet with people on things all the time. I've also done something that I don't know if other mayor has ever done. I actually hired my own assistant, and I pay for her to work with me to coordinate things between me and the city. So it's a freebie the city gets. But anyway, it's interesting. This is a setup question. I've attended every single city council meeting since I was put in. The only one I missed was one when I won Best of State as mayor, and I had to go attend that. So that's the only one I've missed.
Okay. Okay, we'll have Janice ask our next question.
I'm going to switch to my business owner hat and ask one of the business submitted questions. Our higher education institutions, UVU, BYU, are really a key pipeline, for example, for the talent that we have as businesses, and really important for us to thrive, in addition to other things that come out of the universities. So how will you approach collaboration with Orem's business community and then higher education institutions? Mayor Young.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we work with UVU on a lot of things. Most recently, there was an entity called the Business Resource Center that was set up 12 or 13 years ago over at UVU. And that entity had gotten a little bit ineffective as far as the way it was operating. And so we actually, as a city, proactively approached UVU and said, let's overhaul this, let's revitalize it. And so in an effort to make that happen, I actually went back to DC and I met with legislators. And I was trying to raise $2.5 million from Orem and $2.5 million from UVU to make that happen. So we're in the process of that. There's a trajectory on what has to happen to make that come together. But essentially the BRC, if it's done right, will be an engine for small business development, but it will also be a setup for entrepreneur, higher level, angel type investment. So that's what we're doing with that.
Thank you. Karen?
Right. Collaboration is something that I have been working on for years, and as CEO of Community Action Services and Food Bank, we collaborated a lot with Utah Valley University. We've hired their, they started off as interns, and then they became employees in the social work program. We partnered with them in providing food for their food pantry. I've also worked closely with them in setting up programs to help their first generation college students. So when I was doing that, in fact, I received an award from Utah Valley University for my work in helping those first generation college students. And as mayor, I take the same approach to Orem's business community and with UVU. I want to keep those communications open, create opportunities for collaboration. We have tremendous resources here in Orem with the businesses and with Utah Valley University. And I believe that with those collaborations, we can make Orem even better.
Okay, thank you. Karen, if you'll keep the mic for a second, and this question will go then to David, but the question on the table from a member of our business community says and asks, what differentiates your leadership style from your opponents? Karen, if you'll take the first.
All right. Well, I own up to my mistakes, my friends. And I answered the wrong question a few questions ago. And I answered this question earlier this evening accidentally. But I can reiterate what that was. I am someone who invites discussion. I build consensus. And I'm not going to, this is what I bring. I'm not going to say someone Mayor Young doesn't bring. I'm just talking about me, because I know myself quite well. But I recognize everybody's inherent worth. I have had many, many mentors in my efforts to become a leader. I tend to be more of a hands-off leader, give somebody examples and give them goals and work with them on goals and then set them free and let them do what we hired them to do. That's my leadership style. I'm not a micromanager. I'm not a meddler. I just get the job done, my friends.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, what differentiates your leadership style from your opponents?
Again, not to compare to my opponent. I don't know how to do that because I don't know everything about her. But as far as leadership style, I haven't really thought about that. What I do know is when I thought about running for mayor is I felt like I know how to make things happen. And that's what I've done my entire life. As I say, my background is similar to yours, Curtis. It's being an entrepreneur. And entrepreneurs don't just go try something and then quit. No, they try something and they pivot, and they try something, they pivot, they try something, they pivot. And so my leadership style, the best way I can describe it, is getting things done. I've been involved with dozens of business, either starting them up or on a consulting basis. And I've even started up a nonprofit. So I know a lot about how to make things happen. Thank you.
Okay, well said. Thank you. Question 6 from our business community asks, and we'll do the same thing. Mayor, we'll have you lead off, and then Karen, you take the second. Are we better off now than we were 4 years ago, Mayor?
Yes, we are extremely better off.
How so?
How so? I've got a list of 5 pages of accomplishments that have happened in the last 4 years.
You've got 50 seconds.
Okay. There's just been some pretty major changes in Orem. If you talk to the city employees, and you don't even have to talk to them, but if you do talk to them, they'll tell you things are fantastic. We actually did a survey because we wanted to answer that question, and overwhelming, the city employees were very excited about what was going on there. We initially made some changes when I was elected. We unleashed a lot of the entrepreneurism in the city, and by making those changes, I believe our city is one of the most dynamic cities out there as far as our city employees. And then as far as community events is one example. Our community events, Orem Fest, Lights On, all these different things have tripled and quadrupled as far as attendance. Orem is known as a happening place. Our PR team with Pete will tell you people are copying what we're doing all over the place. So if you got 20 minutes, I can tell you all the great things that are happening in Orem, but that's the 1-minute version.
Well, we'll have you both stick around after the debate. Okay, thank you. Karen, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago?
All right, as I've spoken with hundreds of residents, the answer and the message I keep getting is no, that Orem is not better off than it was 4 years ago. So nearly everything that I've heard has to do with quality of life. What I'm hearing from residents is housing prices are too high. There are too few housing options, owner-occupied housing options in the city of Orem. Orem, moms and dads want their children and grandchildren near them, just not in their basements. And people want to spend time with their families instead of having to drive distances in that heavy traffic to see them. And they're also unhappy because one's dollar isn't going so far. And I recognize that some of these are broader issues than just Orem issues, but what we do is we see them in this micro setting. Residents are also concerned that the city's been involved in non-city issues, such as Proposition 2, the initial Orem-only school district split. 72% of the voters rejected this proposal 3 years ago. Residents want elected officials laser-focused on city issues, such as keeping taxes low and providing crucial services.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, would you like to opt a 30-second rebuttal?
Yes, Karen's talking to different people than I am. If all of her people are saying no, they're less happy. Everything she mentioned is a national issue. As far as, if I could control interest rates, I would love to, but I can't. So those are macro issues. As far as the school district, this is like a kind of a game. 72% of residents did vote against it. However, when it went to the rest of the district, the 10 other cities who were not influenced by Stronger Together and the propaganda they were putting out, guess what? They voted overwhelmingly to split, and that's how the split happened.
Thank you. Karen, I will allow a rebuttal on a rebuttal, one time. This is an opportunity.
I'm talking specifically about what Orem residents are saying. I do not believe that propaganda is an appropriate word for voter information. I call it voter information. And yes, indeed, 72% of Orem residents who voted rejected the proposal 3 years ago, and I stand by that.
Okay, thank you. For the audience to know, I reached out to Karen and Mayor Young and asked them to submit a question that they would like asked of themselves. And we agreed just prior to coming on stage that they'd both have the chance to answer their own question. And so I think we'll start with Karen's question. It appears first on my paper. Karen mentioned the following. She said, "It's been my perception over the last few years, Orem politics have become more and more negative. What experiences do you have to bring unity amidst a great deal of division?" Karen?
All right, I bring a unique skill set with me to heal division. One of the things that you see if you go on my website is I spent 1,600 hours at Utah Valley Hospital training to become a chaplain. Well, life took a different direction than becoming a board-certified chaplain. I learned about empathy. I learned about peacemaking. I learned about being there for people as they're navigating difficult times. I saw people die. I saw doctors trying to decide whether to call it on someone doing CPR. I've involved with the Utah Valley Interfaith Association, bringing different groups together. And I've spent time listening. As a council member, I have had lots of experiences working with neighbors and others on solving zoning issues. Can we come up with a compromise? Can we come together so something that we're working on can be a benefit for the entire community?
Okay, thank you, Karen. Mayor, same question. It's been Karen's observation that Orem politics have become more and more negative. What experiences do you have to bring unity amidst a great deal of division?
My mission has always been to bring Orem together and to just make that happen. The problem is from day one, from the first time I went into a city council meeting, I was attacked by a group called Stronger Together. And that continued throughout my entire time I've been here. So it's difficult to bring people together when they're attacking you. Because when I have a vision of what we're trying to create the best city in the state, and my criteria is really simple. I always try and do the right thing for the right reason. And with that as my standard, that's what I'm going to do. So if I've got people attacking me and trying to take things sideways, I'm going to stick with that standard. And it's pretty much impossible to collaborate with someone who's attacking you. But that's been my experience with the group called Stronger Together. And the best thing we can do is somehow that needs to stop.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mayor Young submitted the following question, and we'll have you answer yours first and Karen second. City leaders are ultimately stewards of taxpayer dollars. What in your background best demonstrates your ability to manage large budgets responsibly, and how will you ensure financial stability for Orem going forward?
So that's a fairly easy question to answer. 4 years ago, I would have had to do it hypothetically, but that's what we've done. As a city, as you probably know, we recently received a AAA bond rating from S&P. And that's for the first time in history as far as from S&P. And that's a big deal. That puts us in the top 2% of cities nationally in terms of our financial position. And so we are in an amazing spot financially. Our economic engine is working. I put a huge focus on working with Kathy Lewis and doing all kinds of things to have these 3,000 businesses come in. My goal would be to keep that going and to not change that. So I think I've proven, I've been involved with a startup on dozens of businesses. I've never had one go broke. I know how to manage money.
Okay, thank you. So, Karen, I'll rephrase that question, and here it is. City leaders are ultimately stewards of taxpayer dollars. What in your background best demonstrates your ability to manage large budgets responsibly, and how will you ensure financial stability for Orem going forward?
All right, a couple different things. First of all, my experience as a city council member for 13 years, I balanced and worked on 13 city council budgets, including the budgets through the Great Recession, when we had so little money and so many services we still needed to provide. We balanced those budgets while keeping the taxes low. And also, I've managed multi-million-dollar budgets as CEO of Community Action and Services and Food Bank. We have dozens of different funding sources for our operations, including state and federal and local grants, private donations. And so I know every dollar matters. So I insist that we live within our means, which we do. We're required by law to have a balanced budget. And so I think we need to protect commercial space so our sales tax base stays strong, and push for efficiencies by reducing waste and sharing the resources. And then when new needs arise, like in infrastructure, public safety, me and the council will set priorities carefully and communicate openly about the trade-offs that might need to take place. So financial responsibility isn't just about numbers, it's about earning the trust of families who expect essential services without extra burdens on their households.
Okay, thank you. Okay, very good. Would you like to engage a rebuttal? Okay, go ahead, Mayor Young.
Yeah, I just want to tell a little bit of the rest of the story, and with full respect for Karen, there's a little bit more. While Karen was on the city council, she also voted for UTOPIA, which put a $116 million liability against the city of Orem. And the reason I know about that is because every year we're writing a check out for $2.5 to $3 million. And that's used by about 40% of our residents. And so that's a huge cost that's going on for years and years and years from that decision. And I would have never made that decision. One other thing is, while Karen was on the council, she voted to raise taxes 50%.
Okay. Karen, I think it would be incumbent to have you reply.
I'm going to focus, okay, I'm going to just tell folks to go to March 10th, 2004, City Council minutes. UTOPIA Fiber is something that I care very deeply about, and I'm proud that I supported it, because what it has done for our community is amazing, especially in the time of COVID. Back in the early 2000s, big internet companies told us fiber wasn't the future, but City Council at the time, we unanimously voted to join UTOPIA. We didn't want to be left behind, and it was rough. Federal funding was pulled, signups lagged, and Orem had to help cover those legacy bond payments. Now it's been turned around. We do continue to have to pay back about $2.5 million to $3 million a year in those bonds, but UTOPIA's plan is to pay us back with interest as subscriberships continue to rise.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I hate that we're 1 minute before 8 o'clock. I want to tease this out a little bit more, but I think we can. And what I'd like to do is, Mayor, what is a bigger vision then for providing technology assets to Orem City? What do you propose moving forward?
So the reason I believe this was a huge financial mistake is I was involved back when it was happening. And essentially, when they raised the money, there was $200 million raised through Orem and other cities. Within a few years, that $200 million was worth $50 million in infrastructure. So there was a huge financial mess. And I give complete kudos to the group that is running UTOPIA now and for the last several years, because they've essentially been digging out of this hole. And I recommend anyone sign up for UTOPIA and use it. But they've been digging out of this hole, and they've done a really good job with what they had to work with. So I don't want to blame them. But when I go back to, would I have made that decision in the first place to invest $200 million in something that's worth $50 million a few years later? Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you. Karen, you mentioned the time of COVID and how important it was that we stayed connected. And our energy needs are only going to increase with the advent of AI and all that it can do that we know of, and all that it has the potential of doing. We're going to need technology infrastructure. Tell us about your vision for the future for Orem when it comes to technology infrastructure.
Well, I'm going to continue to support UTOPIA Fiber and use that as a basis for the AI. Granted, we're going to have some increased energy costs, and that's more of a statewide issue. We don't have our own power plant like other cities do. But I mentioned COVID because people had to stay at home. Students were at home. And if we went with the twisted copper and satellite, and as they called it, WiMAX services that were proposed in 2004 instead of going with fiber, we would have been up a creek as a community if we didn't have the type of technology in place. And I just want to clarify, as I talked to Brandon Nelson, we have not spent $200 million on UTOPIA.
I never said that we did as a group of cities.
Please, let me finish. We have spent a total of $52,128,000, which is a huge amount of money. But we have an amazing fiber service. It was the first in the country to have a collaboration like this. It was something that the state legislature did not like and passed laws since 2001 to try and stop it. But we continue to do it and continue to have it be successful.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yes, Mayor, 30 seconds.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry. I never said we spent $200 million. I said the project as a whole spent $200 million, and that became worth $50 million in a few years.
Okay,
And as far as as far as would we have survived during COVID without Utopia? Absolutely. There's a lot of other options.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So, our natural resources are a big part of making a city go. Water, energy. In the earlier debate, we heard about open spaces and preserving those assets. Karen, what do you think when it comes to preserving and protecting open spaces? What will you do to safeguard open spaces in Orem?
All right, in my land use planning background, I was working as a planner in a city in Utah Valley that did the very first what's called transfer development rights in the valley, which meaning that the people who had property on the mountain could sell their development rights to people in the valley, and they could get increased density while preserving that open space, which the city had decided was more desirable than preserving it in the valley. We need to be very careful, but we also need to recognize the wonderful open spaces we do have, and just because a piece of property is vacant doesn't mean that we need to invest taxpayer dollars to preserve it as open space. I think it needs to have some inherent value. Look at Nielsen's Grove. That was an old train stop. We were able to invest in that when I was on the city council and turn that into a beautiful park. But we need to be very careful and do look at our open spaces, and if we do develop completely vacant spots, look at that very wisely.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, what are your thoughts about preserving and protecting the natural resources that are available to Orem?
I'm all about open space. We, as a city council, I actually have experience with this. We actually passed a resolution. Well, as Alpine School District was shutting down our schools, we had several shut down. We became very concerned about the land that those schools were on, because that was strategically laid out in the beginning with Orem to have parks in all these different areas and schools, and a lot of those are attached. And so when those schools were getting shut down, as a city council, we came together and did something pretty revolutionary. We actually passed a resolution that if there was a school or a park, it had to stay a school or a park. And we did that by resolution to protect those areas. And we had our city council vote 6-1 on that ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are right at the hour, 5 minutes after the hour. I think we move into our closing statements. Janice, any other thoughts, questions before we move to closing? Okay, Harvey, you good? All right, Karen, will you lead us out on your 2-minute closing statement?
Oh.
Watch for Harvey's
All right.
15-second sign,
Okay.
and your time begins now.
Now, I'm going to move from you, no offense.
Nope, not a
but
problem.
I'm going to talk to you. Here. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time this evening to be here. I can't see you, but I know you're out there. Taking the time to learn more about me, why I want to be Orem's next mayor, and why I am the best candidate. As mayor, I will bring a wide variety of experience, all rooted in a desire to make communities a better place. From being a land use planner, widow, city council member, municipal employee, planning commissioner, grandma, economic developer, chaplain volunteer, friend, and nonprofit CEO, these experiences will inform my service as mayor as I do my best to serve you. I will bring extensive knowledge about cities and their processes to the mayor's office. I'll bring empathy and listening. Unfortunately, these types of forums don't give it much opportunity, but I'm told I can be funny. But as my mom said, looks aren't everything. So, but I'll bring humor with me, and I will show up. I would like to thank all of Orem's employees for providing exceptional service at what I believe is a bargain price. While my property taxes have increased over the years, I still think what I pay for Orem City Services is a bargain. Thank you for taking the time to be here this evening. If you would like to learn more about me, please go to oremkaren.com. No, the website isn't some angry woman out to stick it to the city of Orem. It's a nice Karen who would like 2 things. The first thing, the best things for our Orem community, and 2, I would like your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Young, your time begins now.
Okay, I'm going to read my first statement of the night. Thanks again for being here tonight. Orem is at a crossroads. 4 years ago, 60% of our residents voted for me in order to stop the onslaught of high-density housing and the traffic problems associated with it. We listened and we stopped it. We stopped 10,000 high-density apartments. Now, some want to bring it back, backed by big developers who don't have to live with the consequences like we do. I believe Orem should stay Orem, not another downtown Salt Lake, but the safe, family-oriented, family-centered city we all choose to call home. Over the last 4 years, we've made real progress together and accomplished more than the previous administration did in 10. While other cities around us raised taxes, we held firm and still kept the city finances among the strongest in the state. We invested in our police, fire, and roads without asking for more from you. We built a new city hall with no new taxes or debt. We launched a transparency portal so you can see exactly how your city is being run. And we manage growth in a way that protects our family neighborhoods and our way of life. I'm not in this for politics. I'm in this because this is my home. I raised my family here, and my vision is to work together to make Orem the best city in the state. This election should be about whether we keep moving forward, protecting taxpayers, families, and the character of our city, or turn back and hand our keys to developers. I hope you'll stand with me to keep Orem strong, safe, and the best place to live in Utah.
Karen, Mayor, thank you. You did a great job, and I have the opportunity of moderating 2 more debates for 2 other cities. I hope they go as well as this one did. Thank you. Another round of applause for Karen and David for their work. Thank you. Couple of thoughts. This stage is set up for a show that will be setting up in about 25 minutes. So we invite all of us, actually. We're just going to go down out there and mingle with you all. Thank you for being here tonight and taking time out of your busy schedules to be here. This means a lot to our communities to have 2 wonderful candidates put their motions on their sleeve and tell you about what they think and feel and their perspectives about how they would run the city of Orem. And I'll tell you what, Mayor, I don't know where you thought you were going to move to, but what I saw tonight from you really lives up to Family City USA. Thank you.